Hello everyone, welcome back to the 2018 Granny Square Crochet Along. Today we are making this gorgeous bean stitch square. I have just finished doing the video tutorial for this and it is so simple to make and so enjoyable to make as well, and it's got a beautiful texture. I've decided to do it in these two alternating colours, this pinky colour and the purple. Yeah, it's so simple. So all you need are your yarns of choice, your scissors and your hook, and then obviously a needle for sewing in your ends after. And you may wish to have a ruler as well, so you can measure how tall your square is getting. And that's it. So, and a cup of tea or coffee, of course. So grab your things and let's have a look at how we made it. Okay, for our bean stitch, I just wanted to show you this little swatch that I've worked up. And this bottom row was where I did it just at the size of the loop on my hook. And the top row was the same, so if I can bring this in here. So bottom row and top row were both done with just a smaller size bean stitch and not pulling up the loop extra high. And then the middle three rows were done with pulling the loop up a bit bigger and making them slightly longer. So you can see that when you make your stitches a bit longer, you have extra large gaps. When you make them smaller, you have smaller gaps. Okay, so it depends which look you prefer, whether you like this open texture and bigger stitches, or whether you like this more closed in texture and the smaller stitches. They both look lovely, so I will show you how to do both of those as we go. Okay, that's but this is our bean stitch, so let's have a look. Okay, so to start our bean stitch square you need to chain 23, unless you crochet quite tightly, in which case we've discovered that I have been crocheting more tightly recently, so I've just added 2 more chains to mine. So it will give me just 1 more bean stitch. You do need to have an odd number of chains. Okay, so 23, or if you're a bit tighter, then do 25. Okay, and then we are going to make a bean stitch in the 3rd chain from the hook. So 1, 2, 3, not this one, don't count this one, go 1, 2, 3. Now to make our bean stitch, you are, it's very similar to the puff stitch, but unlike the puff stitch, we don't yarn over before we go into the stitch. Okay, so we're going to go into the chain. I like to go under two bars of my chain there. So into that stitch, or that chain, pull up a loop, yarn over, go back into your chain, pull up a loop, yarn over, back into the chain, pull up a loop, and now you will have 6 loops on your hook, yarn over and pull through all 6 and chain 1. And then you're going to skip the next chain, go into the next chain and do exactly the same thing. So insert your hook, yarn over, pull through, yarn over, insert your hook, yarn over, pull through, yarn over, insert, yarn over, pull through, 6 loops on your hook, yarn over and pull through and chain 1. Okay, and then skip a chain, go into the next one, go straight in, pull through, yarn over, insert, yarn over, pull through, yarn over, insert, yarn over, pull through, and pull through all 6 loops, chain 1. So we're going into the stitch 3 times, and the first time without a yarn over, and the second and third with a yarn over. Okay, so skip the next chain, go into the next one, so going in once, going in twice, going in a third time. 6 loops on your hook, yarn over and pull through, and chain 1. And this is what we're making here, this pretty little bean stitch. So continue that along your row. 1 bean stitch, skip a chain, another bean stitch. So I'll do 1 more bean stitch with you, so skip the next chain, go into the next chain, and go in once, pull through twice and 3 times, and pull through all 6, yarn over, chain 1. Okay, so do that all the way to the end, and I will see you when you finish. You should have 1 bean stitch in your very last chain. How did you do? It's not so easy working into those chains, I'll be honest, but now it will get much easier as we work into the stitches. So hang in there if you found that a bit tricky working into those chains. Okay, so this is what you should have now. I'm just going to undo a few of mine and show you how you can make it a bigger stitch. So if I just undo a few of those, and I'm just going to show you how you can make it that taller stitch. This one on these 3 rows where you do have bigger gaps in between, but I'll show you that now so you can decide before we go much further. So what you're going to do is, before you go into your stitch or your chain, you're going to pull this loop up a little. Okay, hold on to that loop and then go into your chain. Let's find which chain I need, this one here. So go into your chain and then do your stitch as usual, but each time making sure you pull that loop up to the same height. So similar to how we would make the puff stitch. So each time pulling those loops up to the same height. And there we go, yarn over and pull through for your chain. Okay, and then I'll show you that once more. So pull up a loop to start with, and then I keep wanting to yarn over, go into your chain, pull through, pull that loop up to the same height, yarn over to, again to the same height, back into your chain, pull through, pull it up, yarn over and back into your chain and pull through, all up at the same height and pull through, chain 1. So you can see, just pull that out, you can see here the difference in height for these 2 bean stitches. My camera focuses, these 2 bean stitches to these ones here. And it does make it a lot more open, okay, but it does take a bit more time because you're always having to make sure you've got those loops up at the same height. So it depends how you want your work to look, basically, entirely up to you. Okay, so I'm just going to undo this and redo my bean stitches for the end of this row, and then I'll see you in a sec. Okay, so to continue our square, moving on to row 2, at the end of each row you are going to chain 2. So if you've already done your chain 1, then just add 1 more chain to that. So do your last bean stitch and chain 2. Not your chain and then 2 more, it's just 2 chains, okay? And then you are going to turn your work around, and then we're going to do our bean stitches into the top of the previous bean stitch, but you don't want to do it into that chain. So the chain will always be, as you turn it over, the chain will always be on the right. So if you can see here, if we're going to focus, there we go. So this little gap here is the chain, and this gap here is the stitch. Okay, this gap here is the stitch. So again, if you look at this next stitch, if you remember as we worked along, we did our stitch we did our stitch and then our chain. So on this side it will be stitch and then chain to the right. So this one here, this bit here is the chain, and this to the left is your stitch. Okay, this gap here is your stitch. So just make that clear before we start. Okay, so we're going to do we chained 2 and turned, and now we're going to do a bean stitch into this first stitch, this space here on the left. So insert, pull through. Now whichever way you're doing it, whether you're doing the long bean stitch or just the regular old bean stitch, I'm just going to do it exactly the same way. So bean stitch, chain 1, and then move over to the next one. So again, this space on the left, and make your stitch there, and chain 1. Okay, then over to the next gap, do your next bean stitch, and you're going to continue this all the way along. And it's such a quick, easy stitch to make, especially if you're not pulling up those loops to that longer length. You can see here it works so nicely. Such a cool stitch to make, and so simple and quick. So there we go. Again, into that gap next to your stitch there, which is actually the stitch, it just looks like it's not. Okay, so just work to the end of this row with you, because this is quite a quick video, as I don't need to show you this too many times, because you can just rewind if you need to have a proper recap on how to make this stitch. But I'll talk you through it one more time. So just in case you are watching this and thinking, what am I doing? Go into the stitch, yarn over, pull through, yarn over, insert, yarn over, pull through, yarn over, insert, yarn over, pull through, 6 loops on your hook, yarn over and pull through, and chain 1. So we insert our hook 3 times. So once, then yarn over, twice, and 3 times. There we go, and chain 1. Okay, just a couple more here. Might as well work to the end of this row. Oops, what am I doing? I'm doing a single crochet there. How bizarre. Oh gosh. I think I need a refill of my coffee. Okay, chain 1, and then in your last one here, don't get caught out with your chain on the end. Just find that gap next to your bean and do your stitch. Nice and simple. And then chain 2 for the end of your row, not just 1. So you can see how easily that works up, and it works up so much more easily when it's going into the stitch rather than in the chain. Lovely, lovely texture, and it's so reversible because it's just these strands of yarn, so it works nicely on both sides. I've probably chosen a slightly darker yarn than I should have done. I hope you can see this okay in the light of the camera. There we go. So you are just going to continue making this until you get to 6 inches. So you've chained 2, and then you're going to turn your work around, and then as before you're going to go into each stitch. So remember, it's this gap on the left, or if you're left-handed it will be the gap on the right. So just remember it's the one on the left because the one on the right is the chain. So chain, stitch, chain, stitch, chain, stitch. Okay, so keep working that up until you get to your 6 inches, or whatever size your squares usually are. And I'm going to continue on mine, and I'll see you later. I'm going to add in another colour in a moment and do a few stripy rows as well. See you in a mo. And here we go at the end of my square. I have done 20 rows. I've got 4 of each of these alternating colours. When the pattern was tested, she only needed 16 rows, so it does depend how tightly you crochet, whether you're doing a longer bean stitch or the smaller bean stitch. I've been doing the smaller bean stitch, so that could be a reason why as well. But what a beautiful texture, what a beautiful, I love this stitch. It's just, I love it. I love making it. I love the look of it. It's just yeah, lovely, lovely, lovely. So I hope you have enjoyed making this along with me. I hope you've found the tutorial useful and helpful. And if you have, please be sure to click that like button, give us a thumbs up. It does help us to get out to more viewers if we the more likes we get, and the subscribers too. So if you haven't subscribed, click on that and be sure to hit the bell if you to be notified of as soon as new videos are released. Yeah, I'd love to see what you've done with this square, whether you've done it in one colour, more colours, and put those photos in the album in the Facebook group. Link in the description below as well. And until next time, just keep hooking and don't let your tea get cold.